Hey everyone, it's Carla FC, and today's video is going to be about how I think Hansi Flick will line up Barcelona in his first season as our coach. I'll be giving my input in certain things that I think he should do, shouldn't do, players I think he should sell, some I think he should keep. You guys can let me know if you agree with me in the comments though, or if you disagree. Either way, but let's get right into it. Okay, so before we get into everything, I want to let you guys know how I drew my conclusions about how I think Flick is going to line up at Barca. So what I did was I looked at his previous experience. He's coached Germany and he's coached Bayern. At Germany most recently, he wasn't so successful. At Bayern, on the other hand, he was very successful. He won the sextuple with them, and he was also the coach that beat us 8-2 in that infamous Champions League game, which I'm sure we all remember. But now let's take a look at how he set up Germany and Bayern. Alright, so as you can see here, at Bayern and Germany, he implemented a 4-2-3-1 system. And like I said, I don't know if this is what he's going to do with us, but basing it off the past, this is what I will assume he does. And now let's get into the players I think he's going to use in this formation and how they will all fit into his style of play. Okay, so starting with the goalkeeping position, I think it's quite obvious we're going to stick with Ter Stegen. Now, I know in our fan base, there's kind of a love-hate relationship. Some people really like him, some don't. In my opinion, I think our fan base can be a bit harsh with him. Yes, he's made a handful of mistakes, but who hasn't? Regardless, he's probably going to be our goalkeeper for next season. So even if you don't like him, you're going to have to deal with him for another year. Now for the left back, I'm going with Balde. And this is where things get interesting because Balde this season has been injured, for the majority of it at least. And even when he wasn't injured, he wasn't at his peak levels from the season before. But with the brand of football Flick plays, which is very direct and very attack-centric, you need fast fullbacks. We saw that with Davies at Bayern and how important he was at getting up the pitch. And I really do think Balde is going to be a very, very important player for Flick. Now, my first center back under Flick is going to be Araujo. And I know we've all been seeing the reports that he may leave. Several clubs are interested in him. But I just don't think it's going to happen, especially because he would work very well under Flick's system. Flick needs center backs that are fast, that are strong, and that's exactly the profile that Araujo is. I think he'll be able to convince him. On to the next center back, Jules Koundé. And I know we've seen Koundé as a right back primarily under Xavi, but he was always a center back, and this is where I think we're going to see him go back to that role, primarily because he does have the attributes required to be a center back under Flick's system, just like Araujo, and we have seen that Flick likes more offensive-based fullbacks. Now, this isn't to say we haven't seen one defensive-based fullback and one offensive-based under Flick and under a lot of coaches in general. So if we see Koundé in right back, I won't be surprised, but I do think we're going to see him in center back more often to try to rest Kubarsi. Now for the final defensive position of right back, I think we're going to buy Cancelo and keep him there. The reason I say this is because he's not that expensive, he's versatile, he can play on the left, he didn't pick up many injuries this season, and overall, he has those attacking attributes that Flick can appreciate. But he is a defensive liability, so I wouldn't be surprised if we just stick with Koundé in right back, Kubarsi in center back, and don't make that many changes from our defense last season, but we'll see. Now moving on to the midfield. Now for our first CDM and our first signing, Joshua Kimmich. Kimmich is an important player for Hansi Flick. We've seen him use him at Germany as well as at Bayern in that CDM role. Now, I've been seeing plenty of reports saying that he plans on bringing him to Barca. Kimmich's contract does expire at the end of next season, which will give us some leveraging power because if they don't sell him this season, he could leave for free at the end of next season. I do think he will come. I hope we don't use Kimmich and De Jong as double pivots because if we do that, then we got two players that aren't really CDMs in that position and they're just very similar profiles. But on to the next DM, I think we're going to go with Gundo. Now, we've seen Gundo used in a deeper lying role this season, and I think he's going to stick him there next season as well, just because he offers a little bit of variety. He's still very effective there, and ideally, we'd have a natural CDM in one of the two positions, but I don't think we have the money for that, and I do think we're going to get Kimmich, which also isn't going to help with the money situation. So yeah, I think we're going to have Kimmich and Gundo beside each other. But let's see. I could be wrong about this one. Now for the right attacking midfielder or right winger, we got Rafinha and we got Lamine Yamal. And I do think these two will be interchanged a lot. We'll see them both being used, but I do think ultimately Flick will utilize Rafinha more than Lamine Yamal, or at least more than Xavi has used Rafinha, because Rafinha is a bit more experienced, and it has been a point of concern for a lot of Barca fans how often we're using Lamine Yamal considering his age. Just to prevent injuries, I think Flick will use Rafinha, especially because he's very good in a high pressing system. He likes to run for the ball. He's very direct, and that is the type of style Flick goes for as well. Now for the cam position, we have another dilemma, Pedri and Fermin Lopez. If this was asked 1 season ago, Fermin wasn't even playing for Barca, but Fermin has had a very impressive season. He's very direct, aggressive, and that fits Flick's playstyle. But I do think a fully healthy Pedri would occupy the position because we saw Muller being utilized at Bayern under Flick's 4-2-3-1, which shows you don't necessarily need the most fast and aggressive player. But regardless, I think it makes for an interesting case, and I do think Fermin Lopez will be one of the players that improves most under Hansi Flick. Now for the left attacking midfielder role, I have Xavi Simons. Now nothing has been confirmed yet with Xavi Simons to Barca as of the time I'm recording this video. We have seen Fabrizio say he'd like to explore a loan instead of going back to PSG, but we'll see. Anything could happen. I've seen other sources saying he'd really like to come back to Barca, which would make sense considering a lot of his friends from La Masia play on this team like Fermin, Balde, and Gavi. So we could see it happen. This season at Leipzig, he's been phenomenal. He has mostly been playing in that left mid position, which is why I have him here, but he's a very dynamic player who can play in many different positions on the pitch. And I think if we can get him, he'd be a very exciting player. So I really do hope we do. Finally, for the striker position, I'm going with Lua. Now, Lua's made it quite clear he doesn't plan on going anywhere. And to look at things on the optimistic side, despite having a poor start to the season, the second half of his season was much better, and he was very efficient under Flick's system at Bayern, where he played a very direct brand of football. So who knows, maybe we'll see more from Lua next season. The only problem is his age is catching up to him. So after next season, it'll probably be his time to go. But yeah, this is my starting 11 under Hansi Flick for the 2024-2025 season. Now there's probably a few players like Gavi, Roque, and Kubarsi who you're thinking, where do they fit into the picture? With Roque, who knows? He may thrive under Flick, but I still think Lua is a safe bet for the starting 11. Then you got Gavi, who I'm sure when he comes back from his injury will find his way into the starting 11 in some way, shape, or form. And finally, Kubarsi, he could start too. I just see Flick being a bit more careful with our youngsters. Anyways, that's it for today. If you enjoyed this content, I'd appreciate a like and a subscribe. But thank you guys so much for watching this video.